Blues for an Alabama Sky is a historical fiction drama by Cleage and staged in July 1995 by the Alliance Theater Company in Atlanta, Georgia. It is the summer of 1930. Harlem, New York. The setting is an apartment building in Harlem. Blues for an Alabama Sky is set in Harlem, New York City, during the 1930s, at the close of Harlem's Great Cultural Revival. Since the late 19th century, Harlem had become known for its growing African American community. By the 1890s, many black families had settled there. Lenox Avenue was a key African American residential area and 125th Street was a vibrant main stem of Harlem's commercial life. The play begins with Guy and Leland helping a drunken Angel down 125th Street in the dead of night. Angel once lived in an apartment on Lenox Avenue, paid for by her former gangster lover. Guy urges her to dream beyond the small Harlem world. Angel fears ending up as a broke old woman, begging up and down 125th Street. The Harlem Renaissance refers to the cultural and literary movement of the 1920s when African American writers, artists, and musicians transformed Harlem into the epicenter of black creativity. These writers celebrated black identity and experience with a spirit of racial pride, signifying a new era in African American literature. The 1929 stock market crash triggered the Great Depression. This economic collapse effectively ended the Harlem Renaissance, as many writers, artists, and performers lost financial support. Angel's search for work parallels the despair of many in Harlem whose artistic dreams were stifled by poverty. Harlem, once a symbol of black cultural promise, had become a place marked by hardship and broken dreams. Near the end of the play, Guy expresses this collective disappointment. Harlem was supposed to be a place where could come together and really walk about, and for a red-hot minute, we did. In the 1960s and 1970s, the Black Arts Movement or the Black Aesthetic Movement drew inspiration from Black nationalism. It championed politically engaged art and literature that expressed racial pride, cultural identity, and social resistance, often using the rhythms and language of Black English vernacular speech. In the early 20th century, abortion was illegal across most of the United States, forcing women to seek unsafe backstreet procedures that often resulted in serious injury or death. The lack of access to safe medical care reflected broader gender inequalities, particularly affecting poor and black women who had little means to control their reproductive lives. During the 1910s and 1920s, activist Margaret Sanger began advocating for women's right to birth control, challenging legal and religious authorities who opposed contraception. In 1916, she opened the first birth control clinic in Brooklyn, and by the 1930s, she was planning to establish another in Harlem, an event Cleage references in the play. The Prohibition era was a nationwide ban on the production, sale, and consumption of alcohol under the 18th Amendment and the Volstead Act. It was intended to promote moral reform, but Prohibition had the opposite effect as it encouraged defiance, corruption, and the rise of underground nightlife. Speakeasies, illegal bars often disguised as cafes or dance clubs, flourished in cities like Harlem, where music, dance, and liquor were forms of resistance and escapism from the norms imposed by white society. For the black community in Harlem, Prohibition coincided with the Harlem Renaissance, a time of cultural assertion and social experimentation. In the 1930s, homosexuality was socially condemned and legally criminalized across the United States. The medical establishment classified it as a form of mental illness, and the church viewed it as a moral failing. Within the African American community, attitudes towards sexuality were affected by Christian conservatism and racial vulnerability. Black men were often under intense scrutiny to uphold respectable behavior in a society already eager to stereotype and demean them. Guy's dream of moving to Paris, where queer artists like Josephine Baker found acceptance, suggests that Europe in the 1920s and 1930s was often more tolerant of sexual diversity than America. For many black artists and intellectuals, Paris symbolized racial and sexual freedom, a space where art and identity could coexist without fear. Angel Allen was a former backup singer at the Cotton Club. She, being inebriated, is escorted back to Guy's apartment by Guy and Leland. Leland Cunningham happened to pass by then. He is from Alabama and is a 6-week resident of Harlem. Angel has been abandoned by her boyfriend Nick, who married another woman and ended their affair. During her performance at the Cotton Club that night, Angel lost control on stage, shouting and throwing objects at him, which led to her dismissal. Guy Jacobs, who designed costumes for that club, was also fired. The commotion wakes Guy's neighbor, Delia Patterson, who comes over in concern. She is a social worker on staff at the Margaret Sanger Family Planning Clinic in Harlem. Guy confides that his dream is to design costumes for Josephine Baker, the celebrated African-American singer and dancer now living in Paris. Angel previously lived in an apartment paid for by Nick. Guy invites her to stay with him until she finds her footing again. He hides the fact that he too has been fired, not wanting to distress her. Delia stops by to check on Angel, and their friend Sam, a respected doctor at Harlem Hospital, comes in after delivering twins, offering a celebratory drink. The three of them leave to get dinner, while too hungover to join, Angel stays behind. From the window, she notices Leland. She doesn't remember him from the night before, but after he explains that he helped get her home safely, she impulsively suggests they take a walk together the following Sunday. Angel returns to Guy's apartment after spending the entire day wandering Harlem in search of a new singing job, with no luck. Guy arrives with news that Nick has arranged an audition for her at a club owned by Tony T. Angel and Guy prepare to attend a party celebrating the poet Langston Hughes's return to Harlem. In Delia's apartment, Delia and Sam work on a speech she must deliver to persuade a local church to support the opening of the family planning clinic. Leland arrives for his date with Angel. Guy, Delia, and Sam head out to the theater. Leland says that he has recently come from Alabama to stay with a cousin. Leland's wife, Anna, died in childbirth 8 months earlier and the baby also didn't survive. He admits that Angel reminds him of Anna, which is why he noticed her that first night. Leland is deeply religious, while Angel admits she doesn't attend church. Angel kisses him and the scene fades. Guy informs Delia that he received a telegram from Josephine Baker, who likes his designs and wants him to send several gowns to Paris as samples. After Delia leaves, Leland arrives for another date with Angel, but she isn't home yet from her audition with Tony T. Guy invites him in but steps out before Angel returns. When Angel returns, she explains that Tony offered to keep her as his mistress. Leland assumes she refused him, though Angel hints she may have accepted because she has no other means of financial support. Leland declares that he wants to take care of her, but she warns him not to get attached. He presents her with a dress. After he leaves, she examines the conservative dress with visible distaste. Guy prepares a small tea party to celebrate sending his 5 gowns off to Josephine Baker. Sam, Delia, Angel, and Leland gather for the occasion. Leland discovers that Guy is homosexual and denounces it as an abomination. Guy furiously throws him out and challenges Angel about her intention to marry Leland when she feels nothing for him. Angel confesses she wants financial stability, and Leland can provide it. Later, in Delia's apartment, Delia and Sam share their first kiss. Sam informs Angel that she is 2 months pregnant. Angel is unemployed, and the landlord posted an eviction notice on Guy's door. Guy remains unworried, convinced that payment from Josephine Baker will soon arrive. After Guy leaves, Leland had avoided Angel for 2 weeks, but now comes to propose and she accepts. The building Delia hoped to use for her family planning clinic has been set on fire in protest, but Sam offers another space. Guy arrives with a cable message that Josephine Baker adores all 5 of his gowns and wants him to join her in Paris. She has enclosed a boat ticket and enough money for the journey. When Angel comes in, Guy excitedly tells her he has purchased a second ticket so she can go with him. After Guy and Delia leave to celebrate, Sam arrives. Angel confesses that although she agreed to marry Leland, she now wants to go to Paris with Guy, and she doesn't want to keep the baby. Sam agrees to perform the abortion. Angel returns home after the abortion and tells Guy about it. When Guy leaves the apartment, Leland arrives carrying a handmade rocking chair, a gift he hopes she will one day use to rock their children. He also brings a diamond engagement ring. Angel lies at first, telling him she lost the baby in a miscarriage, but when he starts questioning her, she admits the truth. Leland immediately realizes that Sam must have been the doctor who helped her. He tells Angel she looks like Anna so he will not kill her for ending the pregnancy. As he leaves the building, Leland shoots Sam in the back, killing him. In the days after Sam's death, neither Guy nor Delia have seen Angel. Guy decides to leave Harlem and invites Delia to go with him to Paris. She agrees. After Guy steps out, Angel enters the apartment and Delia sees Angel. In that moment, both understand that things have changed forever between them. Delia leaves and Angel sits alone by the window, sipping champagne, calm and contemplative, thinking about what life will be like next. Let's thematically analyze Blues for an Alabama Sky by Cleage. Guy dreams of becoming a costume designer for Josephine Baker, the renowned African-American performer successful in Paris during the late 1920s. The creative euphoria of the Renaissance has given way to the harsher realities of the Great Depression. But, far from Harlem, African-American expatriate extraordinaire, Josephine Baker, sips champagne in her dressing room at the Folies Bergerac and laughs like a free woman. The Folies Bergerac was a famous music hall in Paris. For him, Josephine represents artistic, personal, and imaginative freedom. He keeps a large photograph of her above his workspace as a symbol of his ambitions. In his mind, Paris is already within arm's length. He sprinkles French phrases into his speech, some real, many invented, and drinks champagne whenever he can, as if each sip draws him closer to the life he longs for. Guy pursues his dream with sheer determination. He sends sketches to Josephine, then full costumes when she requests them, and eventually receives the message he has been waiting for, an invitation to Paris, accompanied by money and a first-class ticket. To him, this moment confirms his belief that romance, by which he means possibility, ambition, and faith, can shape a person's life. He narrates everyday events like they were scenes from a romance novel. When Leland helps him carry home a drunken angel, Guy calls him a mysterious gentleman, turning chance encounters into moments of wonder. Showing Delia his new costume design, Guy Josephine being his inspiration behind the design. On the other hand, Angel's dream of being a blues singer has been swallowed by the more urgent need to survive. When the play opens, she has ended her affair with Nick, a gangster who kept her financially afloat. Guy tucks her into bed after she stumbles home drunk, but she is already searching for the next man who might pay her bills. Where Guy sees a future shaped by creativity, Angel sees only the immediate need for money, shelter, and security. Guy invites her to come with him to Paris and revive her singing career, but Angel can't picture such a future. She treats Guy's dreams with sarcastic contempt. When she takes up with Leland, she views him solely as financial safety. For her, he is her ticket to paradise, but her idea of paradise begins and ends with the ability to pay the rent. While Guy imagines himself flourishing in Paris, Angel imagines nothing beyond tomorrow's bills. When they get an eviction notice, Angel panics, unable to think beyond the crisis. Guy urges her not to worry, trusting that his dream will carry them forward. Angel is convinced that her future depends entirely on the right man appearing at the right time. When she tells Guy that Leland feels like luck to me, she reveals that she has come to equate survival with attaching herself to a provider. Leland reinforces this belief, promising to care for her. Angel flirts, asking if he will be her lucky charm, and he replies, "I'm gonna be your man." Guy dreams big, but he also works hard, taking steady steps toward his goal. Angel avoids long-term planning, letting immediate needs pull her into relationships that compromise her dignity, ambitions, and artistic potential. Her life becomes a cycle of relying on men for clothes, lodging, and security, at the cost of her self-respect. Guy calls her short-sighted because she cannot imagine anything beyond her narrow surroundings. Angel responds bitterly that the world is getting smaller every day, revealing her shrinking sense of possibility. The broken binoculars Guy uses to look across the ocean toward Paris become a symbol of his long vision that with limited means, he can see farther than the world immediately in front of him. But Angel cannot lift her gaze beyond the weight of her poverty. Financial hardship crushes creativity, narrowing a person's dreams until survival becomes the only goal. Guy's unfaltering devotion to his dreams stands as a counterpoint to Angel's desperation, highlighting the line between possibility and despair in Depression-era Harlem. Cleage examines homosexuality and homophobia in the 1920s and 1930s African-American community by contrasting Harlem's lively gay culture with the violence and hatred directed toward it. The openly homosexual Guy is connected to Harlem's gay world, attending parties, socializing with well-known queer writers, and supporting himself in the early days by designing costumes for drag performers. One night, a gay couple who are close to Guy and Angel are brutally attacked by a gang near their home. Later, Guy is targeted by a group of young men, but manages to fend them off. Leland knows these attackers from his prayer meetings. Angel had hid Guy's sexuality from Leland, fearing his reaction. Learning the truth, Leland called homosexuality an abomination, so an angry Guy kicks Leland out of his apartment. Delia's mission throughout the play is to establish the first family planning clinic in Harlem. Working closely with Margaret Sanger, one of the earliest advocates for women's reproductive rights, Delia seeks the support of Reverend Adam Clayton Powell of the Abyssinian Baptist Church. Her goal is to give Harlem's women the ability to plan their families, to avoid unwanted pregnancies, and to live healthier lives. She stresses that without access to contraception, women are dying. Some African-American leaders view Sanger's work with suspicion, interpreting a white woman's involvement in birth control as an attempt to reduce the black population. Delia emphasizes the need for strengthening black families. Angel is a portrait of a woman limited by the forces around her. At first glance, her troubles might look like the result of her own self-destructive choices, but the play makes it equally clear that she is a victim of her circumstances. Living through a time of poverty, when the economy is collapsing and opportunities are scarce, Angel tries to escape the daily oppression she faces. When she staggers home drunk after learning that her gangster lover has left her to get married, the audience sees a woman desperate for a way out. Through Angel, Delia learns about her past working as a prostitute at Miss Lily's, a revelation that disgusts Delia. But Angel accepts it as a facet of survival. Guy offers support whenever she teeters into another damaging relationship or situation. After losing his own job because he defended her honor, he tells Delia not to worry Angel with the truth. The well-meaning but naive Delia responds to Angel's unemployment by offering to teach her typing. When Angel admires Delia's new dress, rare brightness in Delia's modest wardrobe, Delia immediately offers it for Angel's audition, brushing away Angel's protests. Their support for one another suggests a friendship bound by mutual care. Sam cured Angel's hangover with aspirin and bootleg liquor, then treated the group to dinner at Guy's teasing insistence. Later, Guy repays Sam's generosity by offering to bring Delia and Sam to Paris when his dreams finally begin to materialize. Sam sacrifices his personal plans of attending a party celebrating Langston Hughes's return to Harlem to help Delia write her speech for Reverend Powell of the Abyssinian Baptist Church in Harlem for her campaign to open Harlem's first family planning clinic. Delia faces fierce opposition from the church community that sees birth control as either murder or a threat to black survival. Sam urges her to frame the issue not as limiting the black population but as protecting exhausted women and stone-broke men. He supports her despite the personal risk by offering his parents' brownstone as an alternative clinic space after the first is burned down in protest and set to run them out. However, Angel stands apart from their political idealism. She has little interest in Delia's cause, responding to talk of the clinic with groans and pleas for quiet. Surrounded by a loving makeshift family, consisting of a gay costume designer, a lover fiancé, a caring doctor, and a determined young social worker, but Angel remains aloof, focused on her own needs. She rarely celebrates her friends' successes unless they serve her. Her name, Angel, becomes ironic. She calls others her little sisters, but offers no help when they falter. She survives by depending on others, often relying on Guy to pick up the pieces when her choices collapse around her. Angel's downfall stems from the destructive paths she repeatedly chooses. Guy reveals that he has defended her more than once and has paid for it each time, but his devotion still fails to steady her. Angel sarcastically mocks Guy, revealing her lack of gratitude. As Guy's dreams finally begin to come true, Angel entangles herself in a loveless engagement to Leland and announces her pregnancy. When Guy receives his long-awaited invitation from Josephine Baker, Angel responds by getting an abortion and telling Leland she plans to go to Paris. Her actions ignite a tragic chain of events that ends with Sam's murder and Angel left alone. Angel is a product of the world that shaped her. Experience has taught her that her only power lies in her sexuality. She has worked as a prostitute, kept afloat by men like Nick until they discard her. Her supposed audition turns out to be another attempt by a gangster to keep her as his mistress, and she uses seduction to secure Leland's interest as well. Angel's tragedy is that she can't envision a life beyond the narrow limits poverty has drawn around her. She clings to short-term survival because that is all she has ever known. The community strives for freedom, justice, love, but Angel remains trapped in the belief that her worth lies only in the fleeting power her sexuality gives her. When Angel accuses Guy of not being able to provide for her, he replies that she would not dismiss his offer so quickly if he were a straight man taking her to Paris. Angel often sabotages her own chances for success because it feels safer to destroy something herself than to wait for disappointment to arrive. Cynicism becomes her shield, distrust protects her from the pain of hope. Angel lashes out because she is raging against the economic limitations and reliance on men. Leland wants Angel because she reminds him of his dead wife. When he hears she has lost the baby, he thinks only of his own grief and not Angel's feelings, so she responds with anger. Her decision to have an abortion is, in her mind, an attempt to reclaim power, one of the few choices she can truly make for herself. As a black woman living in a world that limits her at every turn, she tries to assert authority over her life, regardless if her methods lead to destruction. All those crying colored ghosts symbolize the weight of history, sorrow, and rage pressing down on her. Do like and share.